Hi again, fellow unlicensed thinkers. Imagine, if you will, that you're having a conversation with someone that you love, that you care deeply for. And for whatever reason in this conversation, it comes up that they say, "I won't be sad when you die." What is the reaction that you have in this imagined scenario? And it might be a mixed reaction, but usually we can say that there's going to be a reaction that is somewhat along the lines of, "Well, screw you too, buddy." But that's just sort of a surface visceral reaction. Now, imagine that same scenario. You're speaking with this person that you care deeply for, and they say, "I'll be devastated when you die." Oh, well, that one. So now on the surface, you say, yeah, they really like me. Their life is gonna be destroyed when I'm gone. And then, well, no, there's something else to that one too, because now you're feeling like, well, no, wait, I wouldn't want them to be devastated. And so there's these conflicting feelings. There's this cognitive dissonance that we have around this whole notion of grief. And we can, without a doubt, say that the way you feel is probably the way that your loved ones feel. So those who are with us now or those who have passed, they probably feel the same way that you feel, because we tend to take on the traits. We share traits amongst those that we are closest with. So, and that could be friends, that could be family, whatever it might be. And so the same way that you feel is the way that they would want, that they would feel themselves. So like if they were, or if you were, it doesn't matter, you can switch the scenario as you will, but if either person in the scenario has passed and is somehow able to look back from whatever realm or whatever they've gone to, they are going to see people being happy or being sad. And think about how that really makes you feel. Well, I mean, for most people, if we love somebody, we don't want them sad, because that's not how that works. And so we would want them to be happy, and we would not want them to feel devastated. So if I'm looking back from this afterlife at people who I care about and I see that they're devastated, I'm going to feel terrible. I don't want someone's life being ruined because of my passing. I want to see them happy and living a complete life. And sorry, stuff in the air today is just killing me. I apologize for all the clearing of my throat. Nothing I have found I am able to do about it yet, but I'm working on it. So a lot of grief is really it's a learned reaction. And you could even call it, and these are kind of harsh words for it, but you could even call it a form of virtue signaling. So I need to show all these other people who are still alive how much I cared about that person by being as sad as possible and displaying as much of the sadness as possible. And I can relate this to my book is dedicated to my cat who passed. He was a wonderful little angel. When I am by myself and I'm thinking about him in whatever aspect, whatever event, anything like that. When he first passed, I wasn't in the mental place that I am now. So I still had, there's nothing wrong with this at all. But I still felt a lot of grief, even on my own. But now when I think about him, if I'm on my own, I'm not I'm not communicating with another person, I don't really feel grief about him. I miss him. I feel happy. I feel a sense of gratitude that I was able to spend time with such a wonderful soul. But when I speak of him with others around, I feel sadness. So speaking to the camera is essentially speaking to other people. So even now, if I start to think about or relay what a wonderful cat he was, I can feel that sadness. And it's a very different thing. It's like the public and private feeling. So in private, I understand that his wishes for me would be that he wouldn't want me sad. But in public, it's like I can't just show happiness because I've learned from my society this habit of sadness that fits into society that tells other people, okay, look, I'm tearing up. That means that I love the cat. But if I'm not tearing up, then I must not have loved him that much. And that goes for anyone in our lives who passes or is still with us and may pass. But an interesting thing to think about is someone who is not in your life anymore, but is also still alive. And if when you were hanging out with that person all the time, for whatever reason, a friendship, a romantic relationship, whatever it might be, when you were hanging out with that person all the time, and if they had passed then, you would have experienced this grief for their loss. And so that could go on for a long time, but we seem to have less of that when the person is still alive, because that would be kind of weird, right? So if every time I think of a friend or a past relationship or something where I still have, an emotional bond with the person, even if it's just one way, who cares? Not judging. But if that emotional bond exists in some way, and I never say lost that sense of concern for that person, it would be weird for me to cry that they're not with me now. So if I was, say, in a conversation with somebody and this person that I lost contact with, but I was still, emotionally connected to, so I'm talking to another person about them, and I start crying, well, that would be kind of weird. That would be, well, the person is still alive, but they're not in your life anymore. And so that's kind of what we have with death. A lot of times is it's a habitual thing. It's how much it affects us and how much we want to display how much it affects us has a lot to do with the habits that we have around it and stuff like that. And God, this is probably something I should have saved for another video, but whatever. So a lot of times the grief is not only this signaling to other people and trying to show them how much we cared about this other being, but it's also a matter of habit. So someone who is distant from me that dies, but I don't have any ill will towards them, I'm going to have less of an emotional reaction than if that person was, say, in my life all the time. And in fact, I might even say you're in a relationship or a friendship with someone who is just terribly annoying, and that person passes. Well, you're going to experience more grief for their passing than you are for someone who you hold no ill will towards, who is not immediately present in your life, because it comes down to habits. So a lot of our grief comes from this habitual thing. And I'm not taking emotion out of it. I understand that. I feel that myself. But when you look at it, it really does have to do with a lot of habits. So we have the habit of that other person or creature or whatever being in our life, the things that we do. And so we don't see that happening anymore. We're not involved in those activities anymore. And then there's the habit that we are taught by society. Society says, and this is interesting too, because different societies have different ways of grieving. So in some societies, you have a wake. In some societies, you hire people to mourn so that you can get your quota of mourning or whatever it might be. And none of these are right or wrong. They are just the habits of our society. And so you can see that when whatever that habit is, whatever that trained behavior is, has been completed or run its course, or another event comes up that causes you to get back into that mindset that we run very much on habits, and we feel an amount of emotion appropriate for what our society tells us we should feel. And that gets really weird, because then you say, well, who is really, like, who is me? How much should I feel like? And the answer to that is, you are those habits. You are those just ingrained traits. You can change them, but that's who you are. That's the appropriate level. That's the appropriate reaction. So in the case of my cat Afian, he has a different, thinking of him has a different effect on me, whether I'm with people or I'm not with people. So it's like, well, who is the real person, and what is the real emotion about him? Both are correct. Both are real. Both are the right emotion. And we can learn to accept that we are, and this again is probably for a different video, but we can learn to accept that we are who we are in each situation in our lives. There isn't a base Cody sitting there somewhere that gets hidden away. No, when I am angry, I am Cody. I am not a different person or anything like that. I am just in that moment feeling that emotion. When I'm sad, when I'm happy, when whatever it is, when I'm calm, I am not a different person. There is not a base me. I am that person at that time. And so when you think of grief, and you may feel weird, like you say, well, maybe I'm not sad enough. Maybe I'm too sad. None of those are correct or incorrect. But do consider how you would want your loved ones to feel if you had passed. So if you're looking back at them, would you want them to be sad? Would that feed your ego? Would you want them to be happy? Would that hurt your feelings? These are great questions. And again, none of them are right or none of them are wrong. I personally think that those who love me would not want me sad for their passing. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to hit like and share the video. And one of these days we will try to get Max to make a better appearance.